A father has accused a Kent school of killing academic and comedic freedom after his 12-year-old son was given detention for telling a joke found in a Roald Dahl book stocked in the school library. Andrey, a Year 7 student, repeated a joke from Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator during a Latin class. The joke read as follows. Shortly after, Andrey was singled out by staff, questioned and given a 2-hour detention. The teacher called it a racist joke. His father, Greg, said if you're grilling 12-year-olds over jokes in school-approved books, how are they supposed to know what's allowed without living in fear? An internal email, seen by GBNews, showed the deputy head misquoted the joke, rewriting it as, "Why are Chinese people bad at ringing the phone?" Greg says this twisted the meaning completely, turning wordplay into an insult. "It's just a surname pun," he said, like saying, "At my school we have Mr. Black, Mr. White, or Mr. Brown. That's not racist, it's a play on names." Greg also claims his son was never told why the joke was deemed racist, just told repeatedly, "You know why it's racist." Greg said that's not discipline, and that's intimidation. He said basic justice means explaining the accusation. The school argued that just because the joke is in a book doesn't make it appropriate, but Greg called that logic indoctrination, saying, "You can't encourage kids to read books, then punish them for quoting them." He also questioned double standards, saying teachers often use phrases like Jesus Christ in front of pupils, which he finds offensive as a Catholic, yet no action is taken. Andrey, who is Ukrainian and Russian heritage, is also teased about his surname, but Greg says this is brushed off as banter. He warned the school is creating a culture of fear. He stated one of Andrey's friends says he's constantly stressed about what he can and can't say at school, and that's not right. Greg says his son won't serve the detention unless the school clearly explains how the joke was objectively harmful. GB News has approached the school for comment, and as of now, no response has been given.
I'm joined now by the young gentleman in question, Andrey Bragin, along with his father, Greg Grimmer. Andrey, thank you very much for coming in. So tell me the circumstances in which you told this joke.
So it was an average Latin lesson, and I was whispering to my friend, and I said, "Do you want to hear a joke?" And I explained the joke, and after class, the teacher obviously heard me. I was held back, and the head of classics came, and they both badgered me and bullied me into thinking and saying, "Do you know why the joke is racist?" But I said that I don't know why the joke is racist, but they kept on badgering and bullying me and made me a victim.
And you had no intention of telling a racist joke, you were just repeating something from a Roald Dahl story.
Yes, this one right here.
So which one is that? Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator,
Yes.
which I remember reading, indeed not just reading to myself, but reading to my children. It's a really good book, it's a gripping story.
Yes.
And it was in the school library.
It was in the school library, and I think quite a lot of other people have drawn it, so other people have read it.
And it's a well-read, popular book. Do you think, did your schoolmasters know where this book had come from, where the joke had come from?
No, I don't think they knew, but yeah, I don't think they knew.
And then what happened? So they had a go at you, they criticised you, they tried to persuade you this was a racist joke. And then why did you get given the detention? Was that for telling the joke?
That was for telling the joke, and it was being racist, which it wasn't. But I didn't attend the detention until they explained to me why the joke was racist. So in the end, I didn't have to attend the lunchtime detention.
Because they never explained?
OK, they didn't explain. But it's actually quite hard to see why it is racist. It's a word play on Chinese names. In fact, I'm not sure there are many people in China called Wing, as it happens. I mean, there may be. But it seems a very odd... It's as if they were looking for trouble. Do you find at your school that people are looking for this type of disciplinary activity to really say that things that are ordinary conversation are racist? Are they looking for equalities issues?
Well, I could see that they kind of are, but they kind of not too. Other people, other dads in the school, also their sons have been like bullied and badgered, and but they're just too scared to speak up and stand and fight against them.
And you've been willing to speak up. How did you come to speak up about it and with your father?
When I got my 2-hour detention, my dad asked me what's it for, and I told him that I'd explain the joke, and he said that it's not racist. So he emailed my head of classics teacher explaining why is it racist, and they couldn't give a proper explanation. And he said that I'm not going to attend the joke until you actually explain why the joke is racist.
Which they then weren't able to do.
No, they declined to do it.
And can I ask, have you had a pretty good disciplinary record otherwise? You seem a pretty clever young chap. You're working hard and doing well. And what's the latest book you've got out of the library?
This is 1984, and I got this morning, and I'm halfway through chapter 1. And it just reminds me that, like, know your enemies, because the society is kind of the society used to be, or would be, in 1984.
And since this happened, have you had any understanding of why they did it? What pressure was on them to make them behave in this way?
I don't really know, to be honest.
Greg, what do you think? I mean, is this a problem with society generally, that we've become too hair-trigger on accusations of racism?
I mean, to some degree, I have sympathy with them in that I think they are brainwashed themselves, and the brainwashing then continues. So they go to universities where everyone's hypersensitive, and then they are hypersensitive, and everyone around them is hypersensitive. The entire teaching profession is hypersensitive. Anyone who's not hypersensitive is squeezed out, and the thing becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's one problem. But I think at the same time, while I do feel sorry that they've gone through and they've been brainwashed by the university system, at the same time, they can't then continue. We can't continue down this line, because otherwise you won't be able to tell jokes about anything, because potentially, if you're going to be hypersensitive, everything's offensive. Comedy will be dead. Jokes will be dead. Schoolboy banter will be dead. Everyone will be on tenterhooks, thinking, can I say this? Can I mention something in Shakespeare? Can I talk about the Merchant of Venice? Or, is that anti-Jewish? And this is the ridiculous thing about it. So I've really said to the school, look, I'm happy for him to serve the detention if you can tell me why it was racist. Don't want my son to be racist, right? If he has been racist, fine. But then you've got to apply the same standard of hypersensitivity across all things. Using the name Jesus Christ, for example, would be offensive to me, but I don't jump down everybody's throat over it. I accept that people are different, and that's a habit, and people don't do it out of malice.
And is the matter now settled? Are they you didn't have to do the detention? Has the school effectively backed down?
Yes, the school kind of backed down, and they still haven't explained why the joke is racist. And
well, they haven't exactly backed down. What they've done is put it on a sort of hiatus. They basically ignored it for now, but potentially the detention's hanging there.
Right. Yes.
Now, I don't really care about the detention. What I care about is the justice of them telling me what the rules are, and applying them evenly over all offences, not just the ones they cherry pick.
I mean, you'd hope they wouldn't take books out of the library, but the answer is if they don't like the books in the library, they shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah, I think that. I think that if the joke was racist, which it's not, then they shouldn't have the book in the library.
They shouldn't have the book in the library. They shouldn't have racist books in the library.
But of course, if you're hypersensitive, you end up burning the entire library. Yeah.
Look, Andrey and Greg, thank you very much for coming in. I hope you don't get in trouble for coming and being interviewed by me. If you do, you'll have to come back. Thank you very much. GBNews has contacted Andrey's school for comment, and we await its reply.